Alrighty, well, good afternoon and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Andrew Doffney. I'm the Instruction and Outreach Librarian at the New Jersey State Library. It is my pleasure to welcome our speaker today, Deborah Thomas, who is part of the Mercer County State Health Insurance Assistance Program, which administers the federal Medicare program here within Mercer County, New Jersey. Um, Before we jump into the presentation, I have a few housekeeping items to go over. First and foremost, we'll be stopping periodically throughout the presentation to address your questions, as this is a very complicated topic. So please feel free to submit them to us at any time using the Q&A or the chat features in the Zoom dashboard. There is a handout available for today's presentation. I will be uploading that to the chat in a couple minutes, and you should be able to download it from there. If you have any issues downloading it from the chat, don't worry, it will be available as an attachment in the follow-up email that I will be sending out. Um, at the end of the webinar, you will be prompted to fill out a survey. So we ask that if you have time, you please complete the survey. We really appreciate any and all feedback that you can give us. And if you want more information about SHIP, which administers, again, Medicare in New Jersey, you can visit the web address on the screen there. I will send that web address out in the chat so you have a live link to it. And that way, if you're not in Mercer County, you can find the local SHIP office for you if you want to reach out or if you have any questions to learn about what kind of plans are available in your area. And then one last thing that I have for you is just a brief overview of the Zoom dashboard. This is what your dashboard should look like if you're using a PC or a Mac. If you're using a mobile device, the dashboard may look a little bit different, but all of the features will still be there. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can check your audio settings. So if you're using an external listening device like a headset or earbuds, you can check to make sure it's connected properly there. At any point during the presentation, if you do have any issues, there's a raise hand button in the middle. You can click on that and that'll alert me. I will send you a message in Zoom and hopefully be able to resolve any problems that you are having. And then, as I mentioned, we will be stopping periodically to address your questions, and you can submit them using the Q&A or the chat buttons, and we'll take care of that for you. So, all right, let me stop that and get the presentation up, and we'll be ready to go. All right, Deborah, you can take it away.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. And Andrew, thank you so much for allowing me to do this. I really appreciate it because it is somewhat complex, shall we say. My name is Deborah Thomas, and I am the new SHIP coordinator of Mercer County. We wanted to tell you what's new with Medicare in 2026. And unfortunately, it hasn't gotten any less complicated. So let's go and find out what SHIP actually is. Next slide. Thank you. SHIP is actually an acronym for State Health Insurance Assistance Program. It provides free help to New Jersey Medicare beneficiaries and their families who may have problems or questions about their health insurance. It's administered by the New Jersey Department of Human Services. Medicare beneficiaries frequently have questions about benefits, claims, what plans to choose, what plans are available. Our counselors are all volunteers. We have 10 people who are handling Mercer County, who are attempting to handle Mercer County. So after this program, if you're really excited and you'd like to learn more, think about being a counselor, all right? Lots of training involved, but think about giving back to your community. That's a good thing. Counselors provide information and assistance for dealing with claims and in evaluating health insurance options. They are volunteers, so they do not provide any legal advice. They don't sell, recommend, or endorse any specific insurance product, agent, or insurance company. They provide information so that you know your options and you can make your own decisions. And always, counseling is free of charge. Next. All right, before I get into this, let me apologize to you guys a little bit. I had Bell's palsy, which kind of paralyzes one side of your face. So sometimes it's a little difficult for me to talk. It's kind of listening to a person who has a stutter. So I might have to say a word twice to get it to come out correctly. My apologies. Hopefully, I'll recover. So the background of Medicare started, believe it or not, in 1949 with President Truman, who thought we ought to have a national health program for seniors who have catastrophic illnesses. By 1961, we were able to get a national health plan for seniors as a priority. And then in 1965, President Johnson was able to get signed into law the Social Security Amendments, which was the first and official beginning of Medicare, which is federally funded and operated, and Medicaid, which is federally funded and operated by the states. So every state's Medicaid is a little different. In 1972, we were able to expand the program to cover people with disabilities and those who have end stage renal disease, regardless of their age. So you will see someone who has a disability or someone who has in renal stage disease. They could be on Medicare at age 15. And finally, in 1997, we created Medicare Advantage plans, originally called Medicare Plus Choice. Now they're just called Medicare Advantage. Next screen. There are basically four parts of Medicare. We have Part A, which takes care of you if you go to the ER or you go to a hospital and you're admitted. Then we have Medicare Part B, which is your medical insurance. That takes care of you going to the doctor, getting x-rays, going to physical therapy, or if you need a durable medical equipment, that would be what pays. Part C is the newer Medicare Advantage, and that operates like an HMO, a health maintenance organization. So it has a network of doctors, of lab people. And then the last thing, which is the newest, is Medicare Part D. That's your drug prescription program. Now, what makes this really complicated is we have four parts. Each part has a different rule for enrollment. Each part has different monthly premiums. Oh, okay. Thanks for sharing slides in advance. Okay. Um, each part has different deductibles, and each part has different copays. Just to make it complex, like you can't just figure one number and it pays everything. They've all got to be different. All right, next slide. So this, and you can put it all on and I'll just talk to it. You'll notice the word anticipated. This slide was done by the state back in the middle of October. And this was what we estimated the cost would be, because surely we would have this by the time open enrollment started on October the 15th, right? Not quite. I checked last night and the Center for Medicare has still not given the stamp of approval on these amounts, but they are the amounts that everyone in the country is using. So we are assuming that our estimates are quite right. So in 2026, your original Medicare, your Part B cost, will increase from $185, which is what it was this year, to $206.50. That, for most people, comes directly out of your Social Security check. You don't have a Part A. Most people do not have a Part A premium, because if you've worked 10 years of 40 quarters, you've already paid into that with your payroll tax. So that you kind of have. You do need to sign up for it when you're 65. Okay. And I suppose at this point, they didn't do this in the state, but I think this is important. So I'm going to tell you about penalties. All right. And as we go through these parts, you'll say, oh, that's the penalty for this. But you can have a penalty for Part A. It's 10% for twice the number of years that you were eligible and did not enroll. So that's why you're going to enroll. It will apply if you don't sign up for Medicare A during your initial enrollment period, which is the month of your birthday, 3 months prior to your birthday, and 3 months after your birthday. All right. Um, if you don't sign up during that period and you don't qualify for premium free Part A, which is based on Medicare taxes, or if you have a retirement package, there is a penalty. It is the one-time penalty. Now, Part B, which we're starting to talk about right now, has a 10% penalty that increases for each 12-month period you could have enrolled but didn't. It applies when you don't enroll in Part B when you're first eligible and you don't have creditable coverage, for instance, from an employer, or if you retire, particularly if you're a civil servant and you retire, they frequently have retirement programs that will cover your drugs. That's fine. You don't need to sign up if you have that and if it covers your medical care. But this penalty, which this year is about $38.99, you have that forever. Okay. So it's always, even if you think, oh, I think I'm all right, call us and let us talk to you, and then call your employer program and let them talk to you just to make sure. You can have a Part D, which is your prescription drug benefit. You can have a penalty of 1% of the average Part D premium. That would be if you go for 63 days or more without a Part D plan or creditable prescription insurance coverage after you become eligible. The penalty is added to your monthly premium for as long as you have drug coverage. And I had a call from a man last month who was 90. When he was 65 and he retired, he was healthy as a little horse, didn't take any drugs, so he figured, why get a Part D? Well, now he's 90 and he's not quite as healthy as he was at 65. So he was calling about Part D. When we figured out how many thousands of dollars the penalty would be, he decided he would just pay for his prescription. So these penalties, you need to keep them in the back of your mind. All right, getting back to original Medicare, the premium this year has increased to $2,206.50, up from $185. The annual deductible has increased from $257 in 2025 to $288. That's the amount you have to pay before Part B starts kicking in and paying for your doctor's visits and your physical therapy. Your co-insurance for most of this continues to be 20%. So that means if your doctor sends Medicare bill, they will pay 80% of the approved amount. The other 20% is on you. If you happen to use a doctor who accepts Medicare but does not participate in Medicare, that doctor has the right to charge you an additional 15% co-insurance or copay. All right. So one of the things you want to do is you want to find out, does your doctor participate with Medicare? If you're in a Medicare Advantage, you need to know, is the doctor in that network? And we'll talk more about that in a bit. Any questions so far?
Is there any issues with the government currently shut down with Medicare and
In
receiving
terms of
benefits?
them paying for your bills, I have not experienced that, nor have I heard anyone in New Jersey say anything about that. Okay. Um, what we might see, and I think the reason we haven't gotten these final approved costs for premiums is that they took so much in Medicaid until I think the states are trying to figure out, well, if they took all this funding, what can we do? Do we have to increase things more? All right. But I have not heard of the government shutdown affecting Medicare. All right. Even if you call the Medicare, the 1-800 Medicare number, they're on the phone in 2 minutes. That's not true of Social Security. Social Security took a hit in personnel during the shutdown.
All right.
Okay, shall we
Yeah,
go
that's
to
all the
the
questions.
next? Any more questions?
No, that's it.
Okay. Um, you can learn things as you get older. Now, I was under the impression that everybody paid the same Part B premium. When it was 185, I assumed everybody was paying 185. And then when I took this job, I found out that's not necessarily so. That premium that most of us pay is based, if you look at this chart, it's based on the fact that your income is less than $109,000 if you're single, $218,000 if you're married and filing jointly. That's when you pay the $206.50 premium. But if you make a dollar more than that, you can see on this chart how your premium goes up. So somebody who had really good financial information and they're getting lots of money back from their investments, if they're making, say, $171,000, they're going to be paying $536.90 as their Part B premium. And this goes all the way up until $500,000. If you make $500,000 or you have income of $500,000, your Part B premium would be $702.10 a month. Any questions about that? I don't think a lot of us have to worry about it, but you should know it. Next slide. Now, I also found out that they have this income related monthly adjustment on Part B surcharges. So again, the figures are essentially the same in terms of your income. So you can see at $109 or $109,000 or less, you are not going to pay any additional charge to your Part B premium. However, if you start to make more money, as you can see on this chart, in addition to your Part D premium, you would be paying an additional $14.50 per month. And I guess this is a way of people who made lots of money sort of paying their share. I guess I did not know this existed until about June of this year. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So this slide is just an overview of Medicare choices. And if you think of Medicare as being a tree that branches into two branches, you have your first branch is original Medicare, which is Part A and Part B. Both of those parts only pay 80%. All right. So if you don't want to pay the additional 20% that would be on you, you would get a Medicare supplement insurance or a Medicare Medigap policy, or you would have your retiree group health plan. And if you were taking medications and you didn't want to pay for that, because some medications can get really expensive, you would then buy a Part D prescription plan. Or you might decide to take the other branch of the tree, which is a Medicare Advantage plan. Mostly we just call them Advantage plans. They are considered a Part C of Medicare. They combine Part A and Part B, and they usually have a Part D, but not always. So you have to be careful when you look at them. And we're going to talk about each of these parts. Okay. So if you have questions, hopefully as we go on, they'll be answered. And let's move to the next slide. And you can put everything up. Okay, the annual enrollment, if you already have Medicare, is, as you probably know, from October 15th through December 7th. And during this time, you can join or switch your Medicare uh, Advantage plan. You can join or switch your Medicare prescription plan. This is the time when you shop and compare, and you choose the plan that best fits your needs and your budget. Your coverage of anything you select during this time period will start on January 1st of 2026. But note, whatever drug plan you choose, you're going to be locked into that drug plan with some exceptions. Once the open enrollment period ends on December 7th, you're locked in. So it's kind of a crapshoot. It's like going to Atlantic City and rolling the dice. Maybe you'll be lucky and you won't have any new drugs in March, but maybe you'll get sick in February and you will have new drugs in March. And we just have to hope that they're covered under your drug plan. Okay, next one. So, how do you find out if you're really happy with your current plan? Well, you find out first if it's still offered, because every year some companies stay in, some companies drop out. The ones that stay in might change their premium, they might change their deductible amount. Are your medications still on their formulary? They could take a drug that was on formulary tier 3 and make it up to tier 5, which is a lot more expensive. Are the copays the same? So you want to compare your current plan with all the plans that are available for the next year. You might be able to find a cheaper plan that meets all your needs and saves you money. If you decide to stay with your current plan, you don't need to do anything. You're automatically re-enrolled. Okay. Next plan. So Part D does have some changes going into 2026. The Inflation Reduction Act, known as IRA, drug negotiations are in effect. That's the group of people that negotiate with drug manufacturers to see if maybe you don't have to charge $700 for a certain type of insulin, which is apparently what some types of insulin went to. So they are still working. They have 10 drugs that they got prices lowered for 2025. They are working to see if they can get more drugs lowered. Part D benefit was going to have 3 phases. The deductible is now $615. That's what you have to pay before your drug plan kicks in. So if your drugs are in tier 1, you're not paying for them because they're giving you to those without charging you. But if you have a drug that's in tier 3, that might be $15. That $15 is going to go into your initial coverage phase. Now, the catastrophic phase, the cap is $2,100 for 2026. In 2025, it was $2,000. Once you hit that cap, your drug company will pay for everything. The cost sharing caps on insulin and vaccines continue. Your Medicare prescription payment plan will be an auto renewal for 2026 for those people who were enrolled in 2025, unless you make a change. And again, that late enrollment penalty, if you didn't enroll and you should have last year, it's going to be $38.99 per month. Okay, let's go to the next one. So Part D, standard deductible in 2025. I was wrong. I said it was 588. It was 590. This year it is 615. The initial coverage for period remains the same. The out-of-pocket maximum is $2,100 versus $2,000 as it was in 2025. And the catastrophic phase cost sharing, thank goodness, remains at zero. The late enrollment penalty last year was $36.78. This year it is $38.99. Now, the copay for the full benefit for Slim B, we'll talk about that a little bit more. And QB, we don't have those figures for 2025, but you can see what they were in 2000. I'm sorry, we don't have the figures for 2026. You can see what the figures were for 2025. It's our hope that they certainly wouldn't increase, but that's a hope. All right. I couldn't help but see that. Why on earth do medical plans become so difficult to grasp? Well, I got to answer that one a little bit, in my opinion. Um, a lot of it, certainly the Medigap plans and the Medicare Advantage plans, are operated by private insurance companies. This is a capitalistic country. What is the function of a business in a capitalistic country? To make money. The more profits, the better. That's why it becomes so difficult, all right, and why they're constantly changing things. We'll talk about the drug plans because a very large drug company did drop out of Medicare Advantage because they weren't making money. All right, next slide. Okay, what counts towards that $2,100 out of pocket cap? The deductible that you pay, okay, any of the co-pays that you pay at the pharmacy for the drugs that are covered by the plan, and the supplemental benefits paid by the enhanced plans, for instance, New Jersey PAD or New Jersey Senior Gold. Okay. What does not count would be your monthly premium, and the premiums increased this year. Any drugs that are not on the plan's formulary, that's on you. And any drugs that you fill at a non-network pharmacy, that's on you also. Next slide. They did start in it was effective in 2025, and it will continue this year. Some people on drugs that some of us can't imagine. When I think of being on a drug, I think of being on a prescription that costs maybe $80. Some people are on prescriptions that cost $600 a month. All right. So, considering that you may have to pay a mortgage or a rent program in your auto insurance, everybody can't just write a check for $600 a month. So what they did was they developed the Medicare prescription payment program. It is basically an installment payment program so that people who are eligible for it, who have these high cost drugs, um, don't have to pay it all at once. All right, they can pay it through the year. Next program, next slide. If you want to enroll in that and to see if you're eligible, you can contact your Part D or your Medicare Advantage plan by phone. You cannot enroll it at the farm and not enroll the program at the pharmacy or by calling Medicare. The plans must process your enrollment if you're entitled within 24 hours. And you can do that enrollment um, October 15th to December 17th to start with January 1st medication refills. But you can enroll any time in the year. Maybe you don't know you're going to get an expensive medication until March. So you can enroll in March. And if you enroll in March, it would start in March. So if you enroll after that, the first of the year, it's going to start in the month in which you enroll. Okay, next question, next slide. Now, if you are in the prescription payment plan, the Part D plans are going to bill you monthly. So they will send an invoice and it's separate from your monthly premium bill. And it has to be paid separately. So you can't write a check that combines two of them. You cannot make payments when you're filling your prescription for a covered drug at the pharmacy. The drug pharmacy is going to put the claim through to the plan. Okay. And once enrolled, all your current and future prescriptions covered by the plan must be paid for under the Medicare prescription payment plan. Okay. Excuse me. Next slide. As a choke. If you were on the plan in 2025, you're automatically re-enrolled. A separate renewal notice must be sent after the end of the annual election period and include the payment plan's upcoming terms, so you'll know if they changed anything. If you decide to opt out, CMS, that's who controls Medicare, must require the plan sponsors to process your opt-out request within 3 calendar days. Okay.
We've had a couple questions come in.
Okay.
Is there a flexible spending account associated with Medicare?
I have not heard of one. I can check that out further and get back to you.
And the second one is, I'm a full-time New Jersey state employee and my husband receives SSI disability. He just turned 65 in October. Should he be enrolling in these extra parts even though he has been using my state benefits? Who should he be talking to?
Um, you're 16, will not be. I would think that you want to make sure that his benefits through you are continuing. Okay. If they say they are continuing, then I would call SHIP and ask to speak to one of our counselors. But he turned 65 in October, so he has October, November, December. He has a while. We could schedule to talk with him after December 7th. Okay.
Is the MPP based on income? And if not, why wouldn't someone enroll into PAD?
The Medicare prescription payment plan.
Yes. Is that
Okay.
is that based
That
on
is
income?
not based on your income. That's based on the price of the drugs. Okay. PAD is based on income.
Um, okay. Another one.
And
Can I delay applying for Medicare coverage as long as I'm covered by my wife's employer's health insurance plan? Would there be any penalties or negative consequences of delaying the coverage, such as pre-existing conditions not being covered, additional costs, etc.?
as long as you should apply for Part A, okay, that doesn't mess up anything. All right. But as long as you're covered by your wife's employment health insurance plan, that's probably going to be better and a lot cheaper than enrolling in the other things. Now, when your wife decides to retire, that's a different thing. And then you would want to call SHIP.
Okay. Um, is the process different for people who don't apply during open enrollment?
Um, Trying to think what that really means. Um, So if you don't apply for, if you have creditable coverage and it ends, all right, the process is the same. You would simply have what they call a special enrollment period, all right, because let's say your retirement ended in March of 2026. Well, you don't have to wait until October of 2026. You have a special enrollment period because your coverage just ended. So then the process would be the same. But then you'd still have to look and see, do I want original Medicare? Do I want Medigap? Do I want a Medicare Advantage? That process would be the same and looking to see what you want and need.
We can move forward.
Okay. So insulin was one of the drugs that went berserk 2 years ago. Um, all insulins on any plan formulary, be it Part D, separate Part D, or be it in Medicare Advantage, they have a cap. They cannot charge you more than $35. Okay. The deductible for the plan is not applied to insulin copays. But all Medicare drug and health plans can choose which insulins to cover on their drug list. Now, I years ago didn't realize that insulin was just insulin. I didn't realize there were different types. So, you want to make sure you enroll in a plan that has your particular type of insulin covered. And all of the approved adult vaccines must be on the plan formulary with zero cost. So, that would include things like your flu vaccine, shingle vaccine, the latest COVID vaccine that's still covered. Next slide. Okay, I do see something auto renewal on Medicare Advantage. Most of them, I'm just answering this question from Christine. A lot of them, if they've got their plan, if there are no changes, you wouldn't get anything. But if you haven't gotten anything, I would go ahead and call the plan and ask them what's changed. Okay. Um, to find some of this information, you can use the Medicare Plan Finder at medicare.gov. Please make sure you go to medicare.gov and not medicare.com. .com is a private um, company. It does do Medicare, but there's a charge to it. Okay. So you want to stick with medicare.gov, that's the government. And when you go there, if you can look, this is their opening website page. The second box says Find Health and Drug Plans. You want to click on that. Okay. And when you click on it, it will open to another page that's going to ask you, are you looking for 2025 or 2026? You would choose 2026. It will ask you to put in your zip code. Now, depending on what zip code you use, for instance, 08520, which covers Hightstown and East Windsor, but apparently covers part of Cranberry, it will come back and ask you, are you in Mercer County or in Middlesex County? And you make your choice there. And then it will go on to say, are you looking for drug plans? Are you looking for health plans? What are you looking for, Medicare plans or Advantage plans? It will ask you what you're looking for. And once you make that selection, it will show you the plans that are available. Okay, we can go to next. Oh, okay, it's showing you what would have happened, what I just explained. All right. The one thing I forgot to tell you is that when you get on this site, we recommend that you create a Medicare account. Even if you're in Medicare Advantage, all right, create an account and use a personal email address. Nowadays, the government will not let you create an account without an email address. Don't use your work address because if you quit or you retire, you won't have access to it. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And you can add everything. So when you're comparing your drug plans, you want to know, are your drugs covered by the plan? Are there any restrictions like prior authorization or step therapy? Some plans will say, well, we won't pay for this because it's a higher price thing. You have to start at a lower price thing, and you and your doctor see how it works out. Okay. When you get ready to look at the cost, you want to look at not just the premium, you want to look at the deductibles and the cost pays. If you're on Medicare.gov, that site, when it asks you what do you want to compare, you want to compare the total yearly drug plus premium cost. That will give you the overall cost of what it's going to cost in a year. And you can be surprised the differences that it can make, not only between plans, but let's say between using an out of network pharmacist and using an in network or a preferred pharmacist. That's the next thing. Is the pharmacy that you love in the plan's network, does it happen to offer mail pharmacy, which might be convenient for you? Do they have preferred pharmacy with even lower copays? And usually the preferred ones do have lower copay than just the ones that are in network. And you want to know, will it work with your other drug plans that or drug benefits? That gets back to being on a civil service type drug plan or health plan. All right. You don't want to mess that up. Those are good. Next slide. Okay. Suppose your prescription is not covered by the plan you choose. Now, you looked at the plan, you thought it was a good plan. Here comes February, and the doctor gives you a prescription, and it's not on the plan. So, what can you do? Well, you and your doctor can try to work with the plan and switch to a similar drug that might be on the formulary. But sometimes they're not similar drugs. If you can't switch drugs, you can ask your doctor to request an exception to your plan to have it covered. And they might cover it or they might not. They might cover it if the doctor says, well, they're only going to be on it for a month. If they deny the exception request, you can appeal it. And their appeal process is usually a little different depending on the plan. But Their process is on the back of the letter that told you they denied your appeal. And of course, then if you're going to be on that prescription for a while, once we get to open enrollment, you definitely want to look and see if there's a plan that has that prescription on it at a lower cost. Um, if you're in special enrollment, and we'll talk about who gets into a special enrollment in a little bit, you certainly would look then and see what you could do and get a different plan. Next slide. Okay, so we talked about Part D prescription. Let's talk about Medicare Advantage plans. Sometimes we tend to call them MAs or just Advantage plans. All right. They generally are considered to be Part C of Medicare. They combine Part A, Part B, and frequently, not always, they will have a Part D to cover your prescriptions. Okay. So let's see the next slide and we'll get into Advantage. Now, someone had a question. I just lost the question, but it talked about the TV ads that you see telling you about the extra benefits. And they're usually from a person that you know. All right. I think this is Joe Namath, who used to be a football player. All right. And it does tell you that Medicare coverage helpline, the plan might include dental vision, and it might. If you click on any of those ads, it's going to direct you to an insurance agent selling Medicare Advantage plans only. Next slide.
We had another couple questions come in.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I I heard that once you are on a Medicare Advantage plan, you cannot change back to the traditional Medicare plan. Is that true?
Partially true. Okay. Um, because you can certainly go back to Part A and Part B. All right. The problem, and you can go to Part D for that matter. Um, the problem might be your supplement program or Medicare program if you needed it. That's the program that's going to pay that 20%. Now, depending how long you've been on your Medicare Advantage program, if you've been on it for, say, a year, the Medigap programs, any of them, all of them, can do underwriting. So that means they can look at your health condition, what it's been. They can look at your age, all right, and they can say, no, we don't think so. That doesn't mean you couldn't try another Medigap program. They might come up with a different conclusion, but it can be a little rocky to go back, all right? There are certain times, for instance, we'll talk about this further, but one of the big insurance companies, Cigna, just dropped Medicare Advantage for 2026. It's just gone. They're not offering it anymore. They didn't make enough money, whatever. Okay. Now, those people, because the plan dropped them at this point in their life, if they decide they wanted to go back to traditional Medicare, A and B, and get the Medicare program, they have a special enrollment period where they can do that. And they are guaranteed that the Medicare program must accept them. Almost like they had to accept you when you first applied at 65. Okay. But those occurrences, well, not this year, they're not so rare because a lot of people were on Cigna. So there are a lot of people that are either going to another Medicare, an Advantage program, or going back to traditional, more so than we would see usually. Okay, and yeah, they are celebrities because they want people that you can identify with. All right, they want people who are quote our age that Oh, I remember John Amos. Yeah, he did a fabulous pass. Uh,
Um, I think my mother keeps getting information from something called Silverstream. That's some sort of coverage, but the paperwork doesn't really say what it is. Is this some Medicare program or a scam?
I think it's a private program. I believe I'll have to check that for you. I believe it might be an Advantage program, but I
There,
have to check that.
there is a Silverstream Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Bristol, PA. So there may be something related to that.
Oh, it could be. Why would they? Oh, are they like an assisted living or like senior living?
Skilled nursing facility.
Skilled nursing, I'm surprised they would be sending it out unless she's been there before. You know, if she's been a patient before. If they are what I call senior living, like I don't know if any of you are familiar. It used to be called Presbyterian Homes. Now it's senior living, but it's Meadow Lakes. Now that's senior living, and they periodically will send out stuff to say, "Come over and see how beautiful our facility is, and if you can afford it, and if it meets your need." That I could see. I'll have to look into the Silver Stream stuff.
Right. Is it possible to add dental, vision, and hearing plans to Medicare through the Medigap policy rather than a Medicare Advantage policy?
No, no. Okay. Um, the dental and vision stuff is only in the Medicare Advantage, and there have been some changes in that. Um, the Medigap plan is only going to pay that 20% uh, copay. So if you have a Medigap plan, when you go to the doctor, hi, how are you, Deborah? Walk right in. Same thing with physical therapy. Same thing if I want to decide to see a podiatrist, or I do need a script to get something like an X-ray or an MRI that has to be ordered by a doctor. But that's just the script. It's not a referral.
All right, we can
Okay.
continue. Yep.
Any more questions?
Is Part B cost automatically lowered if your yearly income is variable? Like if it fluctuates from year to year, does that automatically adjust?
It does not automatically adjust. Okay, you would have to call Medicare and say, someone told me that they were a year behind, someone told me that they do 2 years, but you would need to call Medicare. It's not an automatic adjustment.
Does the annual Medicare book describe all the terms for Medicare, essential, etc., and is the book online?
Well, I think it does because guess what? Due to the shutdown, we didn't get our books yet. So we don't know how they look when they're printed. It is available online. I don't believe you have to have an account. I think you can just go to medicare.gov and say that you want the book, and they will tell you can download it as a PDF, I believe.
Um, does Medicare provide coverage while a person travels internationally or moves to another country but retains U.S. citizenship?
Oh, you guys got good questions. What a wonderful group. We should all go out and have cocktails. Anyway, that's a great question, and I'm so glad you asked it. Medicare does not provide coverage while you are traveling internationally. Okay. If you move to another country and you retain your US citizenship, it doesn't matter. Your body is in another country. What I did find out that I didn't know until this lady called and was crying, and then I researched it and found out. And I'll tell you this story because I don't have any names. They were on a cruise ship. She and her dad, who was over 65, were taking a cruise. They flew down to Florida. They were going to cruise out of Miami. They were still docked in Miami when dad got a little dizzy. okay, and kind of collapsed. So he had to go to the ship's infirmary. Now, mind you, we are still docked in Miami, and Miami is still part of the United States. Okay. They took care of dad. He was fine in an hour, bounced back. He enjoyed his trip. Okay. They sent their the claim into Medicare. Medicare denied it and, of course, notified him and via him his daughter. Why did they deny it? She said we were still in the United States. We were still attached to the dock. What I have found out is that you were attached to the dock, but you were in the ship. The ship is not registered in the United States. Very few ships are registered in the United States. All right. So unfortunately, he has to pay that bill. I tell people, and I do this when I travel out of the country, I just buy travel insurance and I make sure that it's travel insurance that includes evacuation. Because, yes, I know in most countries I break my arm, they can set my arm. If I have a stroke or a coronary, quite frankly, I want to be back here. I want to be back to my doctors. I want to be evacuated out. I want to be on an evacuation plane that has a surgical center and a surgeon and a doctor there, not just an EMT. So is it worth me to, for me, I think the last time I was abroad, I paid like $1,500. Um, and of course, I didn't have to use it, thank God. But boy, it was nice. I could sleep really well knowing that if something happened, I could get back to the States in 15 hours. So that's my long-winded answer to your question. Sorry about that.
All right. That's it for now.
Okay. So let's talk about Medicare Advantage. It's structured as an HMO or PPL, which means it's a network. Um, that means that you have to get all of your drugs and services through that network. These are insurance companies. They are private insurance companies that contract with Medicare to provide you your benefits. You may have to use specific doctors, hospitals, and labs. You will probably need referrals for services and specialists. So that means you can't just call your favorite cardiologist and say, can I make an appointment? You need a referral. You want to make sure that all of the doctors that you love desperately are in that network. You might get extra benefits that are not covered by original Medicare, like glasses and hearing aids, and some dental services or gym discounts. These are not supplements to Medicare. No claims that you make through an Advantage program will go to Medicare. They're going to be processed directly by the plan. The invoices go directly to the plan. Now, the plans that are offered differ by county. So if you have a plan that you love in Mercer County and you move to Burlington, you might have to change plans because they might not offer that same plan in Burlington County. The premiums range from zero, and there are some that are zero premiums, to about $157 a month. Some plans will include a reduction in your membership Part B premium. They might pay $50 of it or a certain percentage of it. I would think, and I've been told by my counselors, that if the plan has a premium that's close to 100 or a little over 100, you might want to look at a different plan or consider a Medigap policy. Some plans have a deductible before the plan will pay anything. Again, you have to look at how they are structuring the specific plan that you're looking at. Their plans will charge you a copay every time you use a service until you reach the maximum out of pocket. Now, that out of pocket in 2025, and this lumps all of them. So the smallest was $9,350. The largest was $14,000. After you reach that cap, the plan is going to pay everything for you. Now, some of the supplemental or extra ones that our friends on the TV ads talked about, dental benefits. Some plans offer routine or preventative ones. So that might be two cleanings and a set of x rays. Some plans offer comprehensive dental stuff. One of those plans was Cigna. Cigna last year, one of their plans, I believe they had three in Mercer County. One of them offered a $4,000 dental plan. Whoopie do if you need a lot of dental work. Okay. I thought they would cut it this year and scale it back. I never realized that they would simply say, we're not doing Medicare Advantage anymore. Some of the plans will offer home delivered meals after a hospital stay. Some have spending cards that you can use to purchase over the counter health related items such as adult diapers or shower chairs. Some will provide transportation to medical appointments. Again, you have to read their summary of benefits to find out what appointments. Is it any appointment or just some appointments? Some have worldwide coverage for medical emergencies. Again, you'd need to read to find out, well, what does that mean? Does that mean you'll pay if I'm in Japan and I break my arm? Does that mean you'll pay to evacuate me? I don't know. Okay. There are about 80 plans offered in New Jersey. So um, it can be an interesting read. Some have travel benefits, which means they'll use providers in other states. This could be interesting if you're going to, uh, say, Florida. Is there a network there that you can transfer for 3 months if you're in Florida? Some have cash rewards for getting your wellness services like flu shots or mammograms. Again, you have to check each summary of benefits. Okay. And I would say you want to do this every year. I know that it's a pain to do it, but they can change so often. So I think it's a good idea to look at everything involving Medicare every September or every October and see what's changed. Any more questions, or should we go to the next one about enrolling in
Um,
Advantage programs?
I have read that in New Jersey, original Medicare in 2026 will start to require Medicare pre-approvals for certain medical procedures and surgeries. Is there a list of what medically necessary procedures Medicare will need to pre-approve?
Yes, you're quite right. They're doing that, and we'll talk about that later. It's called WISAR or WISAR, not sure how you pronounce it. They're going to be using artificial intelligence. There are, I believe, there were 11 types of procedures that will require um, pre approval. All right. I do not have the list. I only know three of them. They are on one of the slides. Um, I will see if I can find a list and send that to anybody who wants it. Okay. Um, the only one that I thought was unusual was an arthroscopy of your knee for osteoporosis. I, I guess maybe there are a lot of people who are older and our knees are all getting bad. I don't know how else you would do that, but that would be one of the ones that will require a pre approval. Any other questions? No?
Oh,
Okay.
how,
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
How do you plan ahead if you move elsewhere, such as another state?
Um, in terms of traditional or uh,
I
in
know.
terms of traditional, you just move to another state. Okay. Medigap is good in any state. Medicare is good in any state and in U.S. territories. Okay. If you're in a Medicare Advantage, you could probably start to look and see what Advantage programs offered in the particular state you're going to move to.
Does that come with a new enrollment period if you change your residence?
No, that is a special enrollment. I just had a gentleman who moved from Philadelphia to Mercer County, and he has a special enrollment. So there's no problem with that.
All right, we're good.
Okay. So before you enroll in an Advantage program, you want to look and see, are your doctors and hospitals in the network? What are the copays or co-insurance for each service? Usually in 2025, a doctor's visit was $20. It could be $30. Um, Physical therapy was the same thing. When you start to go to specialists, um, then you were up to $50 for a specialist. And a specialist is anybody who's not a general practitioner. So cardiologists, podiatrists, they are all specialists. Um, you want to know, do they pay for anything or what is the copay for medical equipment? Let's say you need a wheelchair, you know, what's my share of that? Or do you cover the whole cost? What are, if I have to use a doctor out of network for any reason? I'm driving in Delaware. I get in a car accident. I have to go to the ER. Okay. They're not in the network. What are the coverage and costs involved in something like that? What referrals are required? Usually in Advantage programs, a referral is required to a specialist. And again, you want to know, are your drugs covered? They have a formulary in their plan. So you want to see if your drugs are covered. And remember, you can't have a separate Medicare Part B plan and be enrolled in an Advantage plan. Those are conflicts. All right. So you have to make sure that your Advantage plan covers your prescriptions. Will it affect my employer or union coverage? It might. That's why you're going to talk to your employer or your union. Usually, I think it's your HR administrator that that does that sort of thing. If your company's big enough, you probably have a separate person who deals with that. What are the details on eyeglass and dental coverage? Again, we talked about it might be just two cleanings and a set of x-rays. Well, some dentists offer their own insurance program that might match this. So you would have to see what do they mean about help with eyeglasses? Is it your just the glasses? Is it your vision test? And if you travel out of state, I think someone asked that question already, and I certainly did it. I'm in Delaware. I have an accident. I didn't plan on having an accident. I had an accident. I have to see the doctor or the ER. How do they handle that? And only they can tell you that because each plan is so different. Okay, next slide. Now, if you want to enroll in an Advantage program or in a prescription drug plan, you can definitely go to the Medicare site, medicare.gov. You can call the 1-800 Medicare number, or you can call the plan directly. Okay. Remember, enrolling in a new plan disenroll you from your previous drug or health plan. So if you enroll in a Medicare Advantage program, you're disenrolled from your Medigap program or your previous drug program for that matter. And again, if you have other coverage from an employer or your union, you want to check with your plan's benefits administrator before making any changes to your coverage. And you want to get that statement in writing, because we did have an issue where someone spoke to someone on the phone, Susie, and then what she said, and I'm not saying she deliberately made this up, but it wasn't true. When they went back, nobody denied, everybody denied having said that. Who's Susie? You know, we don't have a Susie here. Who's Susie? Okay, you didn't hear that from us. So make sure you get it in writing. Next one. The Medicare Advantage open enrollment, of course, would be different from regular open enrollment. That makes it more difficult. So, if you want to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan, um, you have from January 1st to March 31st. If you just enrolled in one during open enrollment and you decide, oh my God, I don't like this plan, I need a different one, well, you can change. Okay, so you can switch your Medicare Advantage program. You can leave a Medicare Advantage program and return to original Medicare with a Part D drug plan. But remember, you have to check first to see if you can get approved for that Medicare policy, because they're going to do underwriting. Okay, next slide. Now, let's say your Advantage program is ending, like all those folks that had Cigna. Cigna decided to end it. They did not. If they take no action, they will have traditional Medicare, Part A and Part B, but no drug coverage on January 1st. They do have an extended open enrollment program until February 28th, 2026, to enroll in another Part D or Medicare Advantage program. If your Advantage program is ending, again, you can return to original Medicare. And since they ended it, you have that guaranteed acceptance until March 2nd, 2026. So you can't be turned down if, as in the case of Cigna, they went out of business. Any more questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, let's go to the next slide.
Oh, wait, there might be one that just came in.
Oh,
Um, okay, never mind. That was answered before. Okay.
so some of the questions are: can I switch from a Medicare Advantage plan to Medicap? Only if the following applies. You are in the Medicare open enrollment period, which is October 15th through December 7th, or January 1st through March 31st. And you're in good health. And that's what we talked about in the slide before. Or you are in that a special enrollment period because you lost the coverage through no fault of your own. We did have one case where someone was in an Advantage program and the person told them they would have this benefit, that benefit. Well, it wasn't true. Okay. So in that case, and he had to argue it, but he won. So he was in a special enrollment period. And of course, we talked about this before. You move outside of the area of your Advantage plan. Yes, you can always then have a special enrollment period. So we've talked about Medicare Advantage. We've talked about Part A and Part B. The last thing left is the Medigap, or Retirement Group Health Plan. So let's talk about that. And I'll try to get faster because I know you're probably all going to sleep now. Sorry about that. If you stay with original Medicare and you want a Medigap policy, these policies are sold by private individual companies. They do cost sharing with the original Medicare plan in that they will pay the Part A and Part B deductibles, the copays, that 20% we talked about. They're also called Medicare supplement insurance. Most people just call them Medigap. There are 10 standard policies available in New Jersey. They are labeled Plan A through Plan N. Plans of the same letter must have the same coverage, even if they're offered by different companies. Okay? Only the premium costs are different. The advantage of them, you can go to any doctor, hospital, or provider who accepts Medicare in any state. There are no networks to follow, and there's no prior authorization for procedures. Next slide. You pay a monthly premium for Medigap in addition to your Medicare Part B premium and, of course, your Part D premium. That premium can be $100 to $300 per month based on the plan and your age. Medigap pays the claim after Medicare pays. It's automatically routed to them. You don't see anything, you don't have to do anything, but it only covers the services that Medicare covers. The company can turn you down for coverage after 6 months on Part B if you have not yet applied. So you've got 6 months really from the time you apply for Part B to get a Medigap without going through that insurance underwriting. Medigap does not cover prescription drugs. You would need a separate Part D. The Medicare premiums increase with age, and it can increase any time of the year if the state approves it. So they don't necessarily increase at the end of December or the beginning of January. You can keep this policy if you move anywhere in the United States. Next slide. I don't like this slide very much because you can't see it very well, but it's telling you the Medigap policies, and you can see they're labeled A through M, actually through N. And you can see that there are two G's when it's high deductible. And the deductible on that policy in 2024 was $2,800 before the policy paid any claims. Part or Plan K and L, as you can see, have a percentage that they will pay for hospice care or Part B coinsurance, but they also have an out-of-pocket maximum. Their out-of-pocket maximum was $7,060 for Plan K and $3,530 for Plan L. Most people today take either Plan G, regular Plan G, or Plan N. Next slide. You can get Medigap information by the 1-800 Medicare number and asking for their choosing a Medigap policy publication. You can call the companies that sell Medicaps for premium quotes. You can get these charts that are available by going to the website of SHIP, www.aging.nj.gov, or calling 1-800-792-8820. If you're 65, you can apply for Medigap at any time. There is no penalty. And it's not limited, your application is not limited to Medicare annual enrollment period. Next slide. People always ask, should I choose original Medicare or Medicare Advantage? You probably would want to stay with original Medicare if you have health coverage from a former employee or a retirement plan or a union and you want to keep it. If you're a snowbird and you want to spend long travel periods outside of New Jersey and you want the freedom to go to any Medicare doctor anywhere in the United States. Next slide. Now, just to give you some idea, this is Mrs. Healthy, and this chart shows you her cost versus Medigap versus an Advantage program. And you see, because she's very healthy, she doesn't go to a lot of doctors and all of that. At the end of the year, she paid a great deal less having her Medicare Advantage plan than she did having a Medigap Plan G. All right, $2,000 roughly less. Next slide. This is Mr. Sick, and hopefully you can see this whole thing. I tried to reduce it. Mr. Sick goes to doctors quite frequently. If he had his Medicare Advantage program, he would have paid $9,000. With his Medigap plan, G, he paid $5,486. So you see, when I said it's sort of a roll of the dice because nobody plans to be sick. Next slide. Now, are there programs to help with Medicare costs? Yes. There's Medicaid, which is definitely has financial limitations. There's Medicare savings programs, and there is New Jersey PAD to help with prescriptions, and New Jersey Senior Gold drug discount. Next slide. So the Medicare or the Medicaid program is called New Jersey Family Care, and you can see the 2025 rates were pretty low income, and that did not include the assets, did not include the value of your home or your car. Medicaid would pay all of your Medicare costs. That would include Part A and Part B items, premiums, deductibles, and copays. It would lower your prescription copay to $1.60 or $4.80. Again, we do not know what they're doing in 2026. Medicare pays first, with Medicare HMO paying second. And you would apply for that at the County Board of Social Services. Next slide. There are some programs that will help paying the Part B premium. And again, this is based on income. They are called SLIMB and a QI or qualifying individual. And in 2025, your monthly income had to be, if you were single, $1,761. If you were married, $2,380. If you qualify for SLIMB or QI, you will get $185 back in your Social Security check, and you can apply for that at the aging.nj.gov website or the 1-800 number. Next slide. There is also the pharmaceutical assistant to the aged program known as PAD. And the 2025 income levels, as you can see, were much higher. Approximately $53,000 if you were single, and approximately $60,000 if you were married. PAD members pay $5 for generic drugs and $7 for brand name drugs. PAD pays the premium for Part D. There is no Part D deductible, copay, and of course the donut hole has, thank God, gone bye-bye. Next slide. Okay. This was just saying that you can start this application. You don't have to go anyplace. You can start this application online by going to that website, aging.nj.gov. Next slide. Okay, so now we've talked about all of these choices. We have the tree, original Medicare, and the other limb of the tree, which is Medicare Advantage. Next slide. I want you to be careful of your scammers. Medicare is not going to call you and ask for your Social Security number or your bank information. That's real popular at this time of the year. All right. Medicare will not call you unless you have called them and left a callback number. All right. You would should protect your Medicare number the same as you would your credit card. And Medicare will not send any representatives to your home. These are insurance agents who are trying to sell you health care policies. Next slide. We're getting to the end, folks. If you have an occasion, as some people do, you're in a hospital and they want to discharge you, or your insurance plan says discharge them, even if the hospital says no, you definitely want to call these people. This is Commons Health, formerly known as Levanta. You can reach them by dialing 866 815 5440. All right. We do have one situation. We actually have a congressman involved in this, where the hospital and rehab is saying this man should stay in the hospital, and his advantage program is saying we don't think so. So remember that number. It doesn't happen that often, but it's a good number to know. Next slide. Okay, to recap, major advantages. Medicare Advantage, there is a 5.06 percentage payment increase in Medicare Advantage, stronger prior authorization guardrails, and a special supplemental benefits for the chronically ill benefit restrictions. Medicare Part D, out of pocket cost was raised to $2,100. Drug deductible increased to $615. Cost sharing caps on insulin and vaccines continue. The Medicare prescription payment plan auto renewal that continues. Drug negotiations continue to try to reduce the cost of drugs, and the late enrollment penalty is $38.99. For original Medicare, someone asked this question earlier. The AI supported prior authorization pilot is across 6 states via something called WISR. And the next slide, I think, tells us a little bit more about WISR. I don't know very much about it yet, except what's on the slide. So CMS is testing this over the next 5 years in these 6 states: New Jersey, Ohio, Oklahoma, Texas, Arizona, and Washington. Um, it has been used, not necessarily the artificial intelligence, but the prior authorization has been used fairly heavily in Advantage programs. It is now going to be used in these low value services to increase patient costs that would increase patient costs while offering minimal benefit. Now, someone did ask for a list of those. I will have to find that list. The ones that they had here were tissue substitutes, electrical nerve stimulator implants, and the knee arthroscopy for osteoarthritis. Um, that's a new kid on the block. It's shrouded in secrecy. We'll have to learn a great deal more about it. Okay, last slide. I think this is the last slide. Where you can get help. You can call Medicare.gov. You can contact the individual plan that you're looking for. You can call 1-800-Medicare. You can go on New Jersey's www.aging.nj.gov site and click on Medicare options link. It's in a blue box. You can call the Medicare information, which is the SHIP hotline, which is that 1-800-792-8820 number. Okay. Um, you can also schedule an appointment with me. I'm the SHIP coordinator for Mercer County. We do work through the Children's Home Society. So if you call me and I have to call you back, it's probably going to come up as Children's Home Society. So don't be scared. We're not going to make you adopt a kid. But my number is listed here. My extension is 250. And yes, I know your head does hurt with all of this info. Um, any other questions? Anything else I can talk to you about?
I don't see any questions yet, but we'll give it a few minutes to see if any come in.
Okay. And thank you for sitting through this. I'm sorry it was so long, but as you can see, it's a long process.
Right. I'll give it another minute, but anything you want to close with, Deb?
I just want to thank everybody for coming and, you know, listening to my rather long-winded explanation. Um, I do appreciate it. If you have any other questions, please feel free to call me. We are a little overwhelmed because we're coming up on December 7th. So the people who have to make a change are inundating us. But feel free to call. And if you're somebody who doesn't need to be seen before December 7th, I'll have your contact information and we'll start scheduling immediately after December 7th.
All right. Well, I don't see any more questions. So thank you so much, Deborah. We really, really appreciate your time and all the information.
Thank you so much. You were wonderful.
And again, thank you everybody for attending. There will be a recording as well as the handout that'll be available in a follow-up email. So be on the lookout for that. And I just like to close with everybody be safe, be well, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you.